Welcome to this short video designed to help you better understand defensive shots. The APA official team manual defines defensive shot as a shot where the shooter deliberately misses so as to pass his turn at the table to his opponent. Simply stated, a defensive shot is a shot where there is no intent by a player to pocket a ball of his category. Intent is the key word. Think of it this way. Anytime you are not playing offense, you are playing defense. If you are trying to pocket your object ball, you are playing offense. Any other shot is a defensive shot and should be marked as such on the score sheet. Defensive shots fall into two basic categories. The first category is safeties. A safety is defensive action taken when a player has no makeable or high percentage shot or chooses to leave his opponent in a difficult situation. Safeties are perfectly ethical but are intentional misses nevertheless. The second category is intentionally missed shots for the purpose of manipulating one's handicap, also referred to as sandbagging. Players with integrity call all safeties and intentionally missed shots. APA co-founder Terry Bell, a professional pool player and creator of the Equalizer handicap system, will help us better understand defensive shots by demonstrating some examples.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to take a few moments to talk to you about defensive shots. You know, there's a section on your score sheet where you mark defensive shots, and all through the years there have been common misunderstandings about defensive shots. What is a defensive shot and what is not a defensive shot? The key word, I believe, is the word intent. Your opponent either intended to keep shooting or intended to pass his or her turn on to you. And I'm going to show you a few examples. Now, certainly there's some judgment here, and it's true that the score sheets, when they get turned in, might vary. That's why we like for both teams to turn in a score sheet. But nevertheless, if it is your judgment that your opponent was not intending to keep his or her turn at the table, then you should mark the shot. And I'm going to give you a few examples of what should be or should not be a defensive shot.
Example 1. Terry is shooting at the 8 ball to win the game.
This first example is there is no argument this is a defensive shot. Obviously, I can't even touch the cue ball with the 8, probably without scratching, which would be loss of game, so I'm simply going to hand my opponent the cue ball. This is a no-brainer defensive shot.
Example 2. Terry is solids and is shooting at the 2 ball.
In this particular example, I'm going to shoot this two different ways. Now remember, defensive shots are perfectly ethical. We encourage all APA members to learn how to play safe. It's part of the game. So I'm going to shoot this two different ways. The first one is an obvious safety or defensive shot. It would be proper for me to actually turn to my opponent and say, please mark a defensive shot, because that's what it was. Now, putting the ball back approximately where it was, if I shot it this way, trying to bring the cue ball back behind the 8, and then claiming that I was trying to make the 2. Well, if I were to have succeeded and put the cue right behind the 8, again, this is a judgment call. I can sit there and tell you all I want I was trying to make the 2, but you have the right to make the judgment that I was playing safe back behind this ball. And that's why sometimes the score sheets don't agree and there's a judgment. But in this particular case, if I stuck it back behind the 8 ball, trying to block your balls, then that should be marked as a defensive shot.
Example 3. Terry is solids and is shooting at the 2 ball.
Why is the shot of olive oil the perfect way to ring in the new year? Could taking a shot every day help you lose weight, support your heart health, soften your skin, and support your immune system? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. And I'm not talking about taking a shot of alcohol. I'm talking about olive oil. In fact, it's common for people in Europe to take a shot of olive oil every morning. There's just one problem, though. Not all olive oil is created equal. As a matter of fact, some olive oils, even $30 bottles from fancy specialty stores, may actually be rancid. And some bottles that line your supermarket shelves have labeling that may be quite misleading if you don't know what to look for. Well, it's time we put an end to that. So today, I'm pulling back the curtain and exposing these tricks once and for all. During this video, I'll reveal the secret to choosing the best olive oil for you. Believe it or not, it has absolutely nothing to do with how much it costs or where it's made. I'll also share how much olive oil you should be consuming on a weekly basis if you want the best chance to enjoy a
in the defense video from YouTube, as you can see, and the defense, YouTube has the ads. Normally you can click on the skip ad, but because of the way that we structure the live stream, I do not have the ability to skip. So, I want to go over, I guess, a couple things that actually would have been covered in that. So he goes over 3 other different scenarios. Anybody can go back and watch that defensive video in full if you'd like. One of the other ones is where you fail to execute a safety shot. So you attempt the safety shot, but you wind up leaving your opponent basically a straight-in shot. That is something that happens. It's still, your intent was not to stay on the table. That should stay marked as a safety. Another scenario that he used was regarding a lower skill judgment call based on a higher skill judgment call when you look for the shape of the next shot. If it's a 7 and they, completely leave themselves on the other side of the table, but I can't tell if they're trying to make the ball or not, I might not mark that as a defense. Where if they, or I would mark that as a defense, where if they line themselves up perfectly for the next shot, they were probably trying to stay on the table. So go back and watch that. There's a couple other great. Bottom line, defensive shots need to be marked. Any player can play a defensive shot. A skill level 2 can make a shot with no intent to actually pocket a ball, but maybe with the intent to not give their opponent a ball in hand. That does happen. If you are not sure, you can ask the player. I always call my own defensive shots. If everybody got in the habit of doing that, you could. So, what teams are eligible for the bonus points? This came up a few times, so I just wanted to cover it right off the get-go. Open format teams and ladies league teams are eligible for the bonus points. An open format team is going to be your standard 8-person team that plays on a regular weeknight. With the 23 skill level max. Masters teams and Scotch doubles teams are not eligible for the bonus points. If your teammate is busy, out of town, just working, not a good time for them to be here, that's okay. We're giving everybody 1 full week to watch this live stream and to take a short quiz. When they take the quiz, they'll get attendance points, and those points will add up and go towards your team bonus points. Real quick, I want to cover the fun tournaments that we do and try to kind of start letting everybody know a little bit about the difference between a fun tournament versus a qualifying tournament. Coming up, actually next weekend, is our trivia tournament. Anytime you see like the trivia, the captain, co-captain, the moving on up, the MVP tournament, our billiards golf tournaments, or the masquerade ball, we're talking about a fun tournament. That's something that we've created locally. We're a little bit more flexible on certain rules and things that we can do. The only rule that we really stick to is that you have to stay eligible on a team in our area.
And we always follow the normal handicap guideline rules as far as the max skill of 10 if it's ever a Scotch doubles. Whenever you hear us talking about a qualifying tournament, that's not a tournament you're just going to walk away with like a cash prize or anything. A qualifying tournament is a tournament to get you to the next level. Things like our Jack and Jill, it's like a one-day Scotch doubles 8-ball. Given this one's not to play in the championship out in Vegas, just because we've already filled all of our slots, we're still running the tournament, and we're going to be sending you guys out to play in the Mini Manias out in Vegas. The Team Captains Tournament. So keep in mind, the Captain Co-Captain Tournament is a fun tournament. That's local, that's fun, there's lots of wiggle room on things that we can do there. The Team Captains Tournament, we have to follow the St. Louis rules that they have set forth. Players have to be a captain of an open format team or a ladies team for at least 2 sessions in a single pool year. You max skill of 13. You're allowed rosters of 5. I could ramble on forever. I love that tournament so much. Our 8-ball Scotch doubles, which we just had, which we qualified a 4th team, I believe, to go to Vegas. Very exciting. We also have our 9-ball Scotch doubles. If you're active on any open format 9-ball team, you can play in this. If you're only playing 8-ball right now, you need to get on a 9-ball team so that you'd be eligible for a tournament like this. Spring triannuals qualify the same way as a qualifying tournament because even though you do get cash payout, which right now this year obviously we're very tight right now, but next year we'll be back to the normal payout that we were able to do. You are winning that to move to the next level. So we have our 8-ball spring triannual, which is going to be split north and south again on May 15th. Then we have our 9-ball triannual on May 16th. We're doing that all at FACAS. Best of the rest. Lots of questions on this one. Basically, it's a 4th Tri-Cup with no payout. So if you've lost in any Tri-Cup event, or if you were a team that lost to a wild card in a playoff, you get a second chance of getting to the World Qualifier. It's run the exact same way as Tri-Cup, all the same rules. And a World Qualifier. So this used to be called Cities for anybody that is a long term, but a lot of you guys are new. We're qualifying you to get to the World Championship, so we call it the World Qualifier. Our 9-ball is going to be June 11th and 13th. Your team has to win a Tri-Cup, win the best of the rest, or you can be first place 2 sessions out of a pool year, and we feel like you've earned your weight to be in that type of a level tournament. 8-ball will be the following weekend. Now we'll get a little bit to what this whole thing is about. So score sheets. I know League Night's fun, and I know that it is something that we all do to kind of let loose and relax. To have fun, we need to make sure we have a fair playing field. So the score sheet is really the best way that you guys are in control of how well players are handicapped. The better score that you keep, the clearer that those score sheets are that come into us, the better we can rate a player's handicap and the more fair and fun it's going to be for everybody on the league night. Kind of start from the beginning. 8-ball score sheets are fairly easy. If you start at the top, you have your race chart, which is on the left-hand side when you're looking at it. On the right-hand side, you have your match point chart. Right in between the two is a lot of information. You have your team name, you have your week number. So in this particular example, they're at week 2 out of 13. And it has the date of play and the time that that particular division is supposed to start play. You are allowed to start before the scheduled start time, but you can only start 15 minutes after. So if your opponent is not there yet, and so this division starts at 7:30, say at 7:45, at that point it's a team forfeit. If there's only one player there and they have no idea what they're doing, they can technically just play the first match to buy some time for their team. The captain doesn't have to be there. Any player that's listed on the roster can be there and start their match. Your division standings are underneath that. So obviously 1 through, I think most of the divisions that we have now are probably 8 to 10 team divisions. The last number of your team number is the number that correlates with your team number up on the top chart. So if your team, 104,306, or in this particular example, 04306, you would look at team 6, and you look down, you can see the points that you earned the week before, and then your total running points for the session. Below that, you have your home team and you have your visiting team. I know that a lot of you guys play an in-house division, so that doesn't really make as much sense. If you're ever in a travel division, you'll understand that more. Your home team is where you travel to play the match. For most of you guys, it's just to a particular table. So if you're home team table 2 and the visiting team is home team table 5, both teams are going to play on table 2 because that is the home team's table. Below that, skill level SLMP stands for matches played. I know that sometimes people confuse that with the skill level. I understand that. I've done it. I think we've all double-checked it 2 or 3 times. You have your player number, and then you have your team name. We don't have the problem as much as we used to, but the player number, if there are 5 digits in the player number, you do need to write all 5. If you see an asterisk next to a player's name, or if you see a $25, it means that the asterisk means that we're missing information. Normally, it's like an email or a date of birth or something that they would need to get into their member service account. The $25 just means that we have a membership outstanding on them. A player can play basically 1 match without paying their membership at this point. We have that first match free card. If a player plays a second match and has not paid their membership, we're going to hold that match and pretty much give them about 1 to 2 days to pay that before we basically forfeit that match to the other team because you did not have an eligible member playing on your team for that match. So that pretty much covers the top portion. I think the only thing I didn't really point out was start time and end time. That is something that we appreciate you guys filling out. As far as like losing a bonus point for that not being there, that usually is not going to happen. So at the bottom part of the score sheet, so at the top right here, everybody always kind of forgets about that little spot. It's where you can put the team that threw the first player. So if my team lost the coin flip and was told that we had to throw blind, then I would put my team number right there so that later on, when we're in match 4 and we can't remember who threw the first match, we can both go look at that and see whose turn it is to throw. When I say the coin toss, the majority of you guys know, but just for the record, at the beginning of the match, the 2 captains flip a coin. The coin toss establishes if you win the coin toss, you can either choose to throw up the first player or you can ask the other team to put up the first player. Whoever's throwing up first is throwing blind in 3 of the 5 matches, which means you're throwing up a player with no idea who's going to be put up against them. It's hard to control that match. Majority of the time, if you win the coin toss, you're going to ask the other team to throw first. Writing down the team number, the player's name, the player number, and the games must win. That is imperative for you guys to receive your bonus points. Each week in 8-ball, you're allowed 2 bonus points. There's 1 for money, and there's 1 for everything filled out on your score sheet. The other really big one is the yellow total inning boxes. If you miss filling out more than 2 of those, a lot of times we're going to give you a warning, and then you'll lose a bonus point, which, believe me, we hate to do. But so far, it's really the only thing we can do to try to get everybody to fill those out. So, defensive shot column, that's also highlighted in yellow at the top. That's a running total. You do not have to separate racks with lines or circle and count in any way. You just do a running total of total defensive shots between all the racks played in that race. Your games won column, so I'm kind of going this way with the score sheet here. I did skip over 8-ball in the break, 8-ball break and run. Those 2 tiny little columns, that's where you can mark if one of your players got an 8 on the break, you put a little tick. That way we make sure it goes on their record and shows up in their stats. If you don't do that, there's a good chance we'll miss it. The game's must win is exactly what, or the game's won column. So if my player won 4 racks to their player's 3 racks, then my player would have 4 and their player would have 3. After that, you have your match points. Match points is where you go back to the top of your score sheet. You're going to go to the right-hand side. Sorry, I'm backwards. And underneath your team number is the match chart for you. Once you've done it a couple weeks, it tends to come pretty easily, but the first few times it definitely helps to reference the chart. Once you have completed matches, so in this particular scenario, they also give a great example of how to do a forfeit. So forfeits are allowed. I know that we discourage them, but at the end of the day, if the other team doesn't have enough players there and they have not followed the proper rules of the replay rule, then take the forfeit. Everybody's still going to owe the money for it. You only get 2 points versus possibly getting 3 points, but we don't want teams to feel like they have to do a makeup match. If the other team didn't follow the rules, take the forfeit. In that event, you would write the name of the player that you would have thrown. You write forfeit, pretty much leave the rest of it blank, and then over at the side, you're going to put 2-0 as the points that you get for a forfeit, and that will go in towards your running total. At the bottom, we have the total match points that you fill out and both captains kind of sign off on. Below that, you're going to show which team that you're scheduled to play next week. So that's kind of good. You can look to see, oh, we're playing, bandits on table 3. So next week when I come in, I know that I need to go set up over by table 3. The yellow part at the bottom, we don't do it every week, but we put notes in there. If we have something coming up or something that we just want to remind everybody about, we'll put a little note there. That is also a spot where you guys can write notes to us. On the left of that, you have the money part. So as a captain or even just as a player, as soon as you put your $10 into the envelope or $8 into the envelope if you play in the daytime league, you want to make sure that your name is written down there with the amount of money that you actually put into the envelope. So let's say you did a mini mania because you got a 9 on the snap or an 8 on the break and you want to add that dollar in. So I would write Ashley and I would write $11. At the end of the night, you're going to calculate everything written there to find out what the total should be. You count the money to make sure it matches. In the event you guys are short, let's say that you had a makeup match or something like that, and you put a little note there that says, makeup match will be played next week. We're going to put your team $10 past due or whatever the past due amount is, but we're not going to take your bonus point because you communicated. If there's no note, you're losing a point. As soon as the past due balance is printed on that score sheet, so the following week when you guys are $10 past due, if we do not get $60 that week, we are going to start taking bonus points for every single week that we do not collect that additional fund. The reason for that is the second that you guys actually play your match, we're paying for it. So basically we're floating that until you guys pay us back. And, we have to try to keep it reasonable. So 9-ball. The scorekeeping app is probably my favorite when it comes to the 9-ball, but the paper sheet is obviously still used a majority of the time. The top of the 9-ball score sheet is the exact same as 8-ball. You're going to have your team name, team numbers, player skill levels, and all that good stuff. When you get to the actual matches, you'll see this is a great example of using alternating ticks to establish the difference of racks being played. Each rack should always total to at least 10 points. When a player wins the lag, just like 8-ball, they're going to go on top. Whoever's racking first is going to go on the bottom. The innings are always marked after the second player misses. That shows both players shooting and missing. The cleaner that you guys can keep the marks in 9-ball, the better. I've also noticed, like when I'm drawing my lines in between racks, you just want to make sure you don't accidentally go too far. There's been times where I've thought that I had an extra line marked, but it was just the line coming down. So, try to stay in the lines if you can. You're going to write your skill levels, the bold numbers, so 14, 19, 25, 31. You'll notice that those are all kind of bold on the sheet. those represent the skill levels. So if you're a 2 playing a 3, you're going to be going to 25, and you kind of circle 25 for you, and then 31, you're going to kind of circle 31 for them. That way your scorekeeper knows when to stop. One of the examples on this is showing when a player only needs 1 ball and then makes the 9 on the snap. Obviously, the 9 ball is worth 2 points, so they only needed 1. You would mark 38, and you would mark the other point as a dead ball. A player can never earn more points than the race allows. If we try to put that in the system, it dings us, and it won't let us input it. We have to go back and adjust it on your score sheet. The very top row of the 9-ball score sheet is going to represent the running total of balls that have been made that should correlate with the marks at the top line. On the bottom, you have your bottom players' balls made, and then you have the running total for them. The middle 2 columns, the innings is your innings, so you just kind of mark those as you go, and then dead balls. So a dead ball is any ball that is made where no player actually gets credit for it, but you need to keep it in the count. So let's say I break, I make a ball, but then I scratch. I don't get credit for the ball that was made because I scratched. That ball stays down, and my opponent gets ball in hand. We don't want to come out later and be like, wait, we only have 9 balls, what am I missing? If you mark the dead ball, then you'll still total up to 10, and you won't have any issues. Another time that you'd have a dead ball is when you foul while pocketing a ball. So let's say I'm going for the 3 ball and I accidentally clip the 7 ball, but I wind up making the 3 ball. That would also be a dead ball and stay down. The only ball that gets spotted in 9 ball is going to be the 9 ball. If I make the 9 ball out of turn while scratching, that 9 ball is going to get spotted, and my opponent will get ball in hand to complete the rack. Over to the side, so after you've kind of totaled up your innings and your defensive shots, you have kind of the same thing on the score sheet where you have your 9 on snap, 9 ball break and run. You'll notice that they put an X there. I always recommend not putting an X because if they get more than 1, it's hard to put more than 1 X in there. So I tend to use tallies, but that's not too big of a deal. You have your total innings, which in this example is 13. So in 9 ball, your biggest things that we need filled out are your player numbers, your total innings, and your total balls made. Defensive shots being totaled up is also a big plus. As you can see here, they had 3 defense on top, 2 on the bottom. Scorekeeper wrote it and circled it, so it was easy for us later. The next column is going to be the actual balls made. So you can see 38 is written on the top and 21 is written on the bottom. That means that my top player got 31 total balls and my bottom player got 21 total balls. The bottom player lost this match, and the bottom player, it looks like, is a 3. Sorry, my computer screen's a little small. So I'm going to take those 2 pieces of information. I have a skill level 3 that got to 21 balls. I'm going to flip the page over, and I'm going to go to my race chart. So I have a 3, and I'm going to follow that over until I see, okay, there's 21 balls, and then I'm going to pull that up. Match points are going to be 13 to 7. So in the column next to the total balls, you're going to write the match points. So 13 to 7. You'll notice that the match points always total 20. So you have 20-0, 19-1, 18-2, all the way up to 12-8. 12-8 is pretty much the best score that you can get and not lose, or when losing the game. So that pretty much covers majority of the basics. I know that doing it in person is a little bit easier. So if you've never done score, don't be afraid of it. Try it out. Try to learn it at least a little bit. For me, it really brought the full way of how the APA League works in full circle. Really helped me understand a little bit more of the game. So it really does improve, I think, you as an overall APA player if you not only know how to keep score, but understand the score sheet. So captains, I'm going to go over a couple things, and then we're going to go into a couple little trivia questions for everybody. Player eligibility. We are nearing the end of spring session, so you guys need to be aware that a player needs 5 matches on your current roster to play in any type of post-session post-session starts at playoff. So as soon as you guys are done with your regular weekly play, you need 5 matches in to play in a playoff, Tri-Cup, best of the rest, and a world qualifying event. You also need to be mindful of the world qualifier has a special rule of 10 lifetime matches. The reason that we have that rule is for overall fairness and secureness of the handicaps that are going into that tournament. You're playing for a trip to Vegas. We want to make sure that you're accurately handicapped. We cannot promise that we have an accurate handicap for you until you have at least 10 matches in. So those 10 lifetime matches need to be there. And we're back to the beginning. So let me go to my next little screen here. So this is basically a highlight for you guys. Spring Triannuals, May 15th and 16th. Save the dates. Best of the rest is the following weekend. Keep that in mind. You got 2 weekends back to back. Players need 5 matches for playoff, triannual, best of the rest. Players need 10 lifetime by the end of spring session to play in the world qualifier. I will add matches in the triannual and best of the rest do count towards your spring lifetime. Adding a new player right now is probably not the best idea. It's not the end-all be-all if we say no. We did allow a few people to join a little bit late to kind of save a team recently. We will always do it on a case-by-case basis and try to make the best decision so that it's fair for not just the team, but for the division that everybody's playing in. Difference between the captain, co-captain, and team captains tournaments, just please make sure you guys all know that the captain, co-captain is a fun tournament for everybody to play in. If at least one player of the 2 on a team is a captain or a co-captain, that team is eligible to play. It does not have to be a captain and a co-captain playing on a team. If you're a co-captain and you go find a partner, you are eligible to register. It's free to play, giving away $1,000. Team captain, very strict. Must have been a team captain. No co-captains, no alter, nothing. If you weren't a captain for 2 sessions, you're not eligible for that one this year. Local bylaws, just want to remind everybody to please review those. They're really pretty simple to read. It's not, legal language or anything, but sometimes just knowing something's covered in the bylaws helps you know to go look for it. So if you know that you read something about this somewhere and you can go back and look for it, you're just better off in general. So, trivia. So this time we're kind of doing it more of what's the ruling. Came up with some scenarios that we wanted to kind of get some input on what your guys' ruling would be, and then explain what our ruling would be and why. Feel free to use the comment section. I have my phone here, so I can kind of see what you guys are saying and hopefully get, maybe the first person to answer it correctly. We can do something for you, like a free match or something. So number 1, a team has 5 players present. Their skill levels are 7, 5, 5, 4, and 3. Their 7 plays first. They then realize that they cannot field under 23. So basically, had the 7 not played, they probably could have done 5, 5, 4, 3, and then used a replay rule. But with the 7 playing, what are their options? What do we do here? How do we make sure it's fair for them and fair for the team that they're playing against, right? So this is a tricky one. And I know a majority of people would probably go straight to the replay rule. However, at the beginning of the night, it is a team's responsibility to pay attention to the skill levels that they have and the skill levels that they're playing. If a case-by-case scenario would pretty much be the best answer here. They had another player that was supposed to be there, and they can basically show me a message that they're texting right now telling me that they can't be here. I played my 7 because I thought my 2 would be here. Kind of at the mercy of the other team right now. You can play 4 players and then forfeit the last match. That would pretty much be the official ruling. If the opposing team wants to allow you to use the replay rule, then they can. But the official ruling on our side would be you played a player that you knew couldn't field to basically force the replay rule while using your highest skill player on the team right at this point, you're going to have to play your 7-5-4-3 and then probably forfeit your 5th match. The other team wants to allow it. Obviously, we're not going to get involved, but the official ruling, if you were calling us, would be a forfeit for the 5th match because you could not field a team and you would have had players available to use the replay rule had you been paying attention. The number 2, player has ball in hand. Their coach places the cue ball and uses their cue stick to line up a shot and then places chalk on a rail for an aim point. Is this allowed? Excuse me. Had a long day of yelling yesterday. And feel free to read ahead on these, and you could say number 3 in your answer, number 4 in your answer. Okay, so yes. The answer is yes. And I believe Deb Clifford gets credit for the first one to answer that one correctly. Coach may place the cue ball for a ball in hand. They may use the player's cue stick, kind of see what they're looking at, and they're allowed to go put a piece of chalk on the rail. As long as they're not marking the actual cloth of the table with the chalk, they're allowed to place a marker as an aim point. I'm going to add a little layer into this. In the event the captain accidentally moves the cue ball while showing their players something, it's not a foul. When you have ball in hand, the ball in hand is a ball in hand. So unless you're down for a shot and accidentally tap it in the course of trying to stroke, if you hit it with a bridge accidentally, then the ball would just get moved back. It's not a foul, and that goes for the player or the coach. If you hit it with your cue stick as you're placing it, or you hit it with your hand, as long as that cue ball doesn't contact another ball on the table, it's not a foul. You still have ball in hand. Proceed. Number 3, after the break, a 9-ball game, a player mistakenly concedes the table to the opposing player, not realizing they have made a ball. The opposing player performs a shot. Would this be a foul for the non-breaking player? The answer is no. As soon as that player conceded the table to their opponent, it was the opponent's turn to shoot. However, you would need to go mark the ball made on the break for the breaking player. They do still get credit for that ball made, whether or not they realized it. They made the ball on the break, and it should be marked towards them. It does not get marked as a dead ball. So number 4, Michelle Marchand with the shooter question. Oh, we got Marvin. Oh, man, there's a bunch of stuff. So I think Michelle got number 3. Let me see. I'll go through these later. There's a bunch of comments coming in. It's hard for me to keep up, but we'll put out a little announcement of who answered it correctly first. But number 4, if there's no third player or party available, who watches the close hit? Let me see. You guys are saying the shooter, the shooter, the shooter. So in my opinion, if I had a close hit shot, I would call the highest skill player in the room to watch the shot. Whoever's not actually in the game. So no matter which team they're on, if there was a 7 or a 6 that was standing by, I would call them to come watch the shot. Not because I think that they are more intelligent or have better eyesight, simply because sometimes there's things that go into watching a shot that a 7 can explain. If there is an argument, they can probably tell you, hey man, had it been a good hit, this ball would have gone that way. It just might help with the argument, but that's a really tough one. If there's nobody there to watch it, call's going to go in favor of the shooter. So maybe having the highest skill player on the other team watch it to make it as friendly as possible. So number 5, early in the night, a team asks to split so that they can get home early. The opposing team lets them know that they will split, but lets them know also that their last player is not going to be there until at least 9:30. So at 9 o'clock, they're ready for the last match. So what happens there? And I see a answer from Jake DeFault, and that is correct. They alerted you at the beginning that they weren't going to have somebody there till 9:30. Had you followed the normal guidelines of the match played, you probably wouldn't have been ready for that match anyways, so you get to wait. Sorry guys, they said 9:30. No, around 9:40, 9:45 if the player's not there, replay rule would need to come into effect, or an agreement on a makeup match. But really, unless that player doesn't show maybe 30 minutes, I would say no forfeit. The replay rule would probably be ideal in that situation. So All right, next. So number 6, player A is frustrated after missing a shot and leaving player B a pretty easy shot on the 8 ball. Player B marks the pocket, starts lining up for the shot. Player A begins to pull balls out of the pocket and onto the playing surface. So this has happened more than once, and we just wanted to kind of bring this up so that everybody was aware that if you disrupt the playing surface, you are conceding the rack. So no matter what happens really at that point, you have conceded that rack to your opponent. As the shooter that's on the 8 ball, you no longer need to shoot that 8 ball. Don't even do it. Push the cue ball and the 8 ball towards the balls that the other player is pulling out of the pocket and get ready to break the next rack. If the other player is having a very poor attitude, it needs to be noted on the score sheet as a sportsmanship violation so that we can make sure that they're reminded, what is expected of them in a league match. Player 7. A player is having issues racking. A player on the opposing team offers to help. Are they allowed to? Yes, they are. The only person in that room that cannot rack the rack is technically the breaker. So if a person on your team or a person on the opposing team wants to rack for them, they can. We always recommend that a captain of the player that's having issues be the one to go rack, but if they're not available, any player that's willing to go help is allowed to. Number 8, a team has makeup matches and gets the league early to play it. The matches take longer than planned, and now they're needed for a regular match. Can they play both matches at the same time? Yeah, that's a hard no. They cannot. The regular scheduled match should take precedent over the makeup match. So if they're the only player available to play, let's say they're the 2 on the team, and the other team put up a 2, and everybody else on your team is like a 4 or 5, and you want to play your 2 against the 2, they need to actually stop playing the makeup match and go into the regular scheduled match. And then they can go back and play the makeup match. The makeup match, the one thing I will say is finish the rack. I'm not going to pull you in the middle of a rack to go play a regular game. A rack shouldn't take very long, and I think everybody's okay with waiting a couple minutes and for a player to be done with this rack so that they can come over and play their match. But you're not going to finish your total race and make the other team wait for you. Another option, which we're always okay with, is if they say, okay, that's going to be match 1, let's go ahead and throw match 2, we'll just get match 2 started and we'll wait for them later. That's also an option. I don't think that's in the rule books anywhere, but that would be okay. So a team has only 4 players present. None of them want to play twice. So they tell the other team that they need a makeup match. The opposing team does not want to worry about a makeup match. So what happens? Correct. That would be a forfeit. You are not forced to do a makeup match. In no place, shape, or form, if the other team comes up to you at the beginning of the night and tells you that, you can just say, hey, it's either somebody play twice or we're going to take the forfeit. And that's okay. That's allowed. That's covered in the rules. That's actually why the rule is there for you. It's to protect you from the other team trying to, do something like that. So last and not least, you play 3 nights a week. On the app, you show as a 4, but on the score sheet, you print as a 5. What do you play as? Correct, the app. So the app is going to be your most up-to-date score, skill level. Sometimes the score sheets are printed and dropped off, and then we get maybe scores from a different night of play. Those go into the system. We go ahead and print them out, and maybe that adjusts your skill level. You won't see that score sheet until you go to play that Thursday night. And so whatever the app is showing is really what your current skill level is. Per the rule book, you should always play at your current skill level. So please do go off the app if you notice it. If you don't notice it and you guys play based on what you're printed, we'll give you a call and let you know how we're going to handle that. But if you do notice and you have the question, wait, I'm a 5 here and a 3 there, well, there you go. So I'm really sad we couldn't watch the rest of the defensive shot video, but I guess that did cut a few minutes off, so we're ending a little bit early. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything, right now would be a great time to ask. I know that we have some stuff coming up here with the qualifying events. If anybody's looking for a partner, just let us know. I will be putting out a list of the eligible team captains for the team captains tournament. But everything else is going to be a find a partner, let us know. Use the Facebook group, post that maybe you're looking for somebody, and it alerts me that you're looking for somebody so that if I hear somebody at League Night talking, I can kind of direct them to you, or it gives other players an opportunity to respond and, hopefully partner up with you. So all in all, just want to remind everybody that good scorekeeping can prevent sandbagging. The control is in your hands. If you feel players intentionally missing a ball, please mark it as a defense shot. Please make sure that you've commented below with your name or your team name or names so that I can tally up your bonus points. Those will go into effect. So we're giving everybody 1 week to do the online. So next Sunday, I'll be adding all of the bonus points onto the teams. So it actually will show on the app before it shows on the score sheet. But next Sunday, I will make sure that I put a post out and let everybody know that you are good to go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have a wonderful Sunday, and I hope to see you all next week at League Night. Have a great day.